Stitchers, welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Lena, here with my co-host Amani, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
And today we are welcoming back our Tatreez sister, Bayan from Bayan Collective.
Hi.
Hey, gorgeous. We are so glad to have you
guys?
back. So good. It's great to chat with you again and to have you back. We had so much fun the first time, which is no surprise because every time we chat, it's always a good time. But today we have Bayan back to talk about something special. I think some of you may have seen a little video that went viral of us.
A little viral, not a lot.
A little viral. Yeah, we're not expecting that. But of us with some other Tatreezers in Santa Fe. And we have hinted in previous episodes about this Tatreez Retreat that we went on together late in 2023. And so we wanted to bring Bayan on to talk a little bit about that because a lot of you guys have questions. And you know, the three of us joined together to plan and put it together, and we had so much fun and got so close doing it. So we thought it would be great to come together. So I know, okay, Lena, you kick off and tell us how this all came.
Okay, so once upon a time, there was Princess Amani.
I love that. That's so funny.
Okay, no.
First of her name?
First of her name, exactly. First of her name.
We'll tell you about that later.
Oh my God,
You have to come to the retreat to find out what that inside joke is about.
Exactly. Well, so Amani and I met over COVID, over like Zoom one time. And, you know, there was a lot of relationships that came out of the COVID time for the Tatreez practitioners in the U.S. in particular and globally. But a lot of us in the U.S. Could resonate with the diaspora experience in the U.S. and Tatreez was the thing that connected us, right? The thread that connected us. And I remember Amani and I were part of another group chat with a few other Tatreezers. And she just happened to say that she was coming to New York for work. She had a work trip in New York, and I happened to be living in New York. So we decided to actually meet up in person. And at that point, I think I had only met up with maybe a couple other Tatreezers because they're local to me, but I had never met Amani before. So Amani,
this was the second time.
What was the first time?
The first time was I was also in New York for work, but it was the year before because you were still single.
Okay. I don't know why that's significant. Yeah.
You were still single because that was like the time. I don't remember exactly what year, but you were still single at the time. And then when I came back last year,
I was married.
Married, girl. It was a different time. It was a different world. It was a different.
Okay, I don't remember. My memory is really bad. You probably should have told this story then, because I don't remember the first time. I have a very vivid memory of the conversation that we had.
Yes,
and
that's
the
what's
reason.
Important.
Yes, and the reason. So the second time Amani came, we planned to get dinner. I guess we had already known each other, so it wasn't that weird to do that. And the reason I say Princess Amani is because I met her at her hotel where she was staying, and she was wearing this really fabulous fluffy jacket thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was because it was cold. It was January. Of course, I still have it.
Okay,
I wore it yesterday to work. It was January.
Okay,
it was
really fluffy. It was something, and it was like, was it bright? Was it a bright color?
No, it was black.
I'm sure
it was black.
I was about to say, I'm sure it was pink, but
that's what I guess it wasn't pink. Anyways, it was fabulous. It was something that I would never wear. I would never think that I could pull that off. But Amani pulled it off, and and her hair had been blow dried, and she had her nails had been done. Like, she was just fabulous that day. And so I go to her lobby, and we go to the restaurant in the hotel, and we sit down, and it's like the super romantic setting. It was
very romantic.
It was really nice. It was really good for a hotel. It was really nice.
I love that hotel.
Yeah, so we sit down and we're talking and it's just having dinner or whatever. And I honestly don't remember how the conversation got started, but if because clearly my memory is really trash, but this is what I have in my mind that has been created from that time, from that moment. I think I mentioned to you that I really wanted to do a Tatreez Retreat where all the people who we've been in that, we're talking in that group chat could come and hang out together, and it's exclusively for this idea of like stitching together and getting to know each other in person, because we had all been kind of, we like, someone was in North Carolina, someone was in California, some people were like all over the place, and it would have been really cool to meet in real life. And you were just like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, because I remember I was like, it was shortly after I had just come back from a retreat in this. So we met up in January, and I had just been on a retreat in October. And I was like, yes, I was actually, the whole time I was at this retreat, I was thinking this would be so fun to do at the Tatreez Retreat. So we were like on the same page on that already. And we were even like on the same page about like the location, like where we wanted to go, and like the intention behind where we wanted to go and why we wanted to go. And then I know you and Bayan were also right, Bayan? You guys were having side conversations too.
Yes. So I don't know when this fits into the timeline of like the romantic dinner and whatnot, but I feel like I
owe you a romantic dinner, Bayan.
I know. Come on, stop. I feel left out. But today, but I don't feel that left out because I specifically wore pink just for Amani. It's like the
Habibi,
shirt.
It's beautiful.
But it's your color.
I'm just shaking my head.
Every time I want to wear red, all the voice that pops in my head is Amani saying, "Not red." Like, so anyway. But I know. So it was right out of COVID too, and I think like it was the time where. I'm very, very grateful for being a part of that time where it's like Tatreez was just like, there was just like a handful of people online that were participating in it. There was a handful of, as well, teachers that were teaching it. I feel like I was like, when I came on the scene to teach Tatreez, there's only like, I feel like a couple other teachers. So there is like this handful of people, right? And I was also starting my own thobe. It's like a very lonely time. Everybody's very isolated. Like, just take yourself back to like COVID isolation. Everybody's like in their own silo, doing their own thing. And the only like outlet you have is like these people to connect with online. And for me personally, I live in like freaking cornfield land, Indiana. So
we learned that Bayan does not live in Chicago proper.
Yeah. Okay. It's fine. But no, I was just trying to essentially like I use social media for the social part of it too. And I think I just remember connecting with Lena very early on. And then it eventually evolved. I remember the three of us got on a random call. It was so funny because the first call that we had together, it was with us and a couple other girls. And it was like Lena had just announced her engagement. I don't know why this is a theme throughout this, but
wait, why do I don't have memory of any of this. Are you
why
sure
do we know your love timeline?
Gaslighting me.
No. Lena, when we are not recording, I will tell you the conversations that we had the first time we had dinner.
Okay, I don't remember anything.
It's remember.
It's so funny how like Lena's love life is like the timeline for this entire thing.
The theme is romance.
Yes, exactly. Sisterhood. But no, I remember like you had just announced that as the first call. It was my first introduction to you guys. And then afterwards, me and Lena voice note a lot on social media. I also voice note everybody like 47-minute voice notes. It's okay. And then I just remember like this, like I was just squealing, screaming. I sent this like voice note of just like being so excited to connect. And then I was like, oh my God, we should totally do it. I'm so excited. Lena, let's do it. And then Lena, I think vaguely mentioned that there was like something you just had a conversation. At that time, I didn't really know it was Amani, but I guess now it was Amani and like some of the other girls. And I was like, listen, if you're down to do this, I'm down to plan. Let's get together on a call. I think this is like months in the making, by the way. We're skipping a huge timeline, but eventually we got on a call. We just started hashing it out. We were like, where should we go? I think Amani suggested Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then we were like, let's just put our heads down and start getting to work. And I think that was like probably February, right? Or like February of like 2023. Yeah. And the retreat back.
I looked back on receipts. So yeah, it was around February that we were like, I know. I bought the domain like literally, I think the day after like Lena and I had dinner.
That's so funny. So it was in February 2023, and then the retreat itself was, I think, like in October, which I think is important for this conversation for later. But it was so fun. We did so much behind the scenes. Like we created the logo, we found the place, we just like all the good planning stuff. I don't know if you guys want to go into that, but it was just like there's so much behind the scenes that went into the making of that.
Well, I think what's important too to call out, like when Lena and I had dinner, I had mentioned Santa Fe, and Lena had also mentioned New Mexico. I don't remember. Like, I think it was like, I think you had mentioned Albuquerque, was it, or
Yeah, I
Phoenix?
had this.
Or no,
Yeah, so
Arizona.
that's true. So I do remember that part. I do remember that. Yeah, I had mentioned New Mexico because I don't know. I'd heard like that New Mexico, the cities in New Mexico, like Albuquerque and Santa Fe, are like known for like the art
Yeah.
scene. So I thought there would be kind of
Yeah.
a cool parallel, like with Tatreez. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had mentioned Santa Fe because I had a friend who had spent a few weeks in Santa Fe with one of her friends who is from a native tribe out there, and she got to experience the Native American art scene there and just how big the Native American community and culture is out there. And so the combination of the general art scene being a thing there, and specifically Native American art being even bigger emphasis, was kind of like, it just felt right, since we practice an indigenous art and we live on, this occupied land, and like kind of giving gratitude. I think we all kind of had that idea of like, it would be nice to go and experience and like try to immerse ourselves. Obviously it was a very short amount of time, so not as much as we wanted, but to try to get like some kind of experience there.
Yeah, I remember that now. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because like we initially wanted to go and do like, we wanted at the retreat itself, we wanted to like learn some Native American like arts and crafts. And that's why like Santa Fe was like the place to go. And then eventually ended up not working out. We did other art classes there.
Yeah.
But we ended up doing like a glass class at our retreat instead of, but yeah, it was still a very nice experience to be immersed in that. And I think, not to jump the gun, but like it was in October, and like we all know what happened in October of 2023. So it was nice around that time, like just in some weird, like destined way for us to like be near some indigenous, like remote land when like our own people were going through a lot of things. Not a lot of things, right? They're going through like an assault, in October. So it was like all this planning leading up to it. And then like we had like no idea that all of that was going to happen in October, but it was like the perfect time, subhanAllah, for it to all go down,
Well, and then I remember leading up to it, like in October, we were like, do we cancel this? Is this appropriate? Like, what is the right move here? And ultimately, I think it was probably the best thing that any of us could do. And I think back to that, honestly, the retreat was such a good like marker against what was happening, because for me, at least, like ever since October, I forget everything that happened. And like there was like horror after horror after horror. And like now we're at this point where we're 5 months in, and like now we know what 5 months of genocide looks like, but at the time it was really fresh. I mean, I think it was October 22nd is when we met for the retreat. And I remember it being very difficult to like not look at my phone that day, or like I feel really guilty traveling today. Yep. What are we doing here? And I remember all of those feelings very like, it's very visceral now, because I can point it to a specific moment in October. But at the looking back, I mean, I think it was probably the best thing that we could have done for ourselves and for building community and for just being in community in that moment. Yeah, I don't know. How did you guys feel about it?
Yeah, and like unconsciously too. Like we didn't like, I mean, like not purposely, I mean, I think for us too, like it was not, that was our first retreat. I think we made a very intentional decision to not make it super public. So it was just a couple of girls from the Tatreez community. There was maybe about like 10 of us that got together for that. So it was very small anyways. And I think like when October 7th came about, so like at least in on my schedule, what I had was I had workshops actually scheduled for October 14 and 15. Those were actually the ones with Vela. And then we had our retreat, and then I had a couple other trips planned for November as well. So it was like, all these things that happen. And it's sad to say, but when stuff, when Gaza gets bombed or things are happening in Palestine, you're like, okay, it's a very sad, unfortunate reality, but it's like, oh, in about a week or two, like this will kind of die
Yeah.
down. It'll go back to being quote unquote normal, even though our normal baseline is not a normal baseline by any means. But, you know, there was like a time where it was like, oh, so I definitely postponed my workshops. And then, you know, we were like, okay, give it another week. And then it still didn't die down. And then we were like, you know, well, why don't we just choose to gather during this time anyways? And it is still going, you know, instead of being like, you know, super fun and outgoing, it'll be a moment for us to gather and stitch in community and to gather in sisterhood during a time when we actually do need it most. Not when we just want to, you know, stitch for fun, which is totally acceptable and okay for us to do, but you know what, we actually needed that like desperately, especially because so many of us that were there during that retreat existed. I think there was only like two of us, maybe five of us, three that came from the same state and two other girls that came from another state, but every single one of us existed like across the US. So we were so dispersed. So at least for me, like when we had that retreat and we chose to have it, and obviously we didn't publicize it at the time, it was honestly till this day, like I feel like the most heartwarming thing I ever experienced because we didn't, sure, a lot of us were, you know, checking our phones and stuff, but, and, you know, trying to like post because at the time too, it was like Gaza needs us to post. So we were posting, but amongst ourselves, we weren't even talking about it. We were just stitching and being in community in such a safe space, you know, and that was like what ended up filling our hearts um so much. And for me it was just like such a heartwarming experience to have.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree. I had the same feeling in the sense of like it was something I needed that I didn't realize I needed until we were
Mm,
there.
yeah.
I hate to use the term like it was a healthy distraction because that's definitely not the right way to put it, but for lack of a better term, you know, there was something about just being together and as you said, Bayan, like we didn't necessarily, it wasn't that we weren't acknowledging or weren't talking about it
Hmm.
or were ignoring it, but we didn't have to talk about it
Yeah.
because we all understood. We were all experiencing
Yeah.
the same
We didn't
thing.
have to defend ourselves because at the time
Exactly.
there was
We
a
did
lot
not
of
have to
defense mode.
condemn. Yes, there was no
Yeah. Hmm.
condemning being
Yeah.
asked of us, which
Yeah.
was really, really nice. And like, I remember one of the girls who was on the retreat with us had said that excuse me, she had moved to a new city in a new state, and she did not have an Arab community. She did not have a Palestinian community, and it was about 2 weeks after the start of the genocide that we gathered. And I remember her saying, "This is the first time in 2 weeks I've been around." My
Yeah.
people and what
Yeah.
that kind of provided, that safe space that it provided, and you know like it was nice, even though it was a very short retreat. It was nice to unplug from work because I have a corporate job that is very much outside of the space. It's a very different world, and I have to kind of pretend, you know,
Hmm.
during the day when I'm at work, that everything's okay and that it makes sense for me to be talking about moisturizers when there's genocide going on. But, you know, got to pay the bills. So it was nice to be able to unplug from that and not have to pretend
Yeah.
at all. And
Yeah.
the other layer to that was that there was this sense of Palestinian joy when we were
Yeah.
together, which was really nice. Like literally, I remember us just like, whose room was it? I don't want to
Mary
put
and
people's
Cuddy.
okay. I was gonna say I didn't want to put people's names on blast. Oh, already Mary and Cody. They lucked out with like a bigger room that had like a living room situation, and I just remember every night us winding up in their room, stitching into all
Yeah.
hours of the night. I was the first one to go to sleep, but you know,
Yeah.
stitching into all hours of the night, and just like being able to like smile and laugh without feeling guilty as well was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
new at the
Yeah.
time, but felt
It was like a
really
it was like
nice.
it was like an exhale.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
really what it felt like. It was
Yes.
such an exhale because we were all holding our breath still until that
Yeah.
moment. And again, obviously not to like diminish or disregard anything that was happening. We were all still doing what, you know, what we could possibly do for the people of Gaza at the time. But I think so many of us, when things like this are happening, especially when you're witnessing it in front of your eyes, it's very, very like we often forget that we also need to take care of ourselves and that we need to refuel our own bodies. And I think a lot of us feel very, very guilty for resting, for eating,
Yeah.
for taking a walk. And I just posted something the other day, especially as Ramadan approaches with people fasting and like not having food while, you know, the starvation, not just starvation, right? Being starved, right? I like to make sure that words are important here. Like they're being starved and not just starving. It's happening. And so for me, like one of the things that was important to distinguish between like the idea of guilt versus like the idea of humility, like we can do things guilty, like we can feel guilty. But that's not the goal. The goal of witnessing what's happening to our people is not to make us guilty. It should push us towards being humble, and then that should really catapult us towards advocacy. Like we should be humble in our own experiences that we don't have to go through what they're going through. And then we should really focus in that way of advocating for them and supporting them and standing in solidarity with them. And like it's, you know, rest and advocacy are not two things that are antithetical. Like I do think that you should be able to rest and, you know, take a walk, even if you feel guilty for doing so, because those are supposed to be your fuel. They're not stopping you from that advocacy. And like that retreat, to be honest, at the time was really that for me, because I do feel like I wasn't doing enough, but then I kept reminding myself that I was at the forefront of, you know, not just teaching Tatreez, but leading a lot of safe spaces for people to come in, to walk in, to enter, to feel safe, because at the time, not many of us did feel safe. And I think that kind of fell on the wayside for me. So the only way that I was able to catapult myself into all of that, honestly, was I think because of our retreat. Because when I got back from it, I was having conversations with some of my other friends who are teachers, like, you know, in more, you know, spaces and systems that are not necessarily welcoming to being Palestinian or pro-Palestinian, or friends that work in, you know, for corporate and corporations. And I think it was really nice, not nice for my friends, but at least nice for me to have the distinction of like, oh my God, I don't know what that feels like anymore to be isolated. Because the one thing they kept complaining about was, I feel so isolated. And for me personally, I felt so isolated until our retreat. And then I was able to feel that sisterhood, and really honestly got me through the next couple of months to really be able to hold those spaces for other people, without depleting my own self and my own energy. And I think that we really downplay the necessity for us to get together as a community and as human beings. And I think there's so many of us realizing that now, with there's so many new collectives that are starting and gatherings that are starting, stitching circles that are coming together. And I just started the Bayan Village, which is also monthly gatherings, to get together and stitch. But I think our community is really coming to that awareness that we are not meant to do things by ourselves. We never were. I think that that is like a myth of, not to, you know, bash the Western world, but hey, we live here, so we understand what that individualism is like, and like we were never meant to do things alone, and we can go back to our roots and our communal crafts, to get together.
Yeah. And I like specifically remember this because, or at least I remember the stark contrast between like before and after the retreat and how I felt and things like that. Yeah. Because like every day of the retreat, I think maybe partly because we were the three planning it. So I wanted to make sure everything was going smoothly. I wanted to make sure like, you know, everyone had someone that liked to be around if they were awake early or staying up late or whatever. So maybe I was more aware of it. But also I remember thinking like, this is work worth doing at this time.
Yes.
Like, I am sure like Amani, you can get the corporate thing. Like I could not, I was like, this job is not worth my time. Like this is not adding any value to anybody's life. Like why am I wasting my time doing this? Obviously for the paycheck, but like ultimately, like, there needs to be more than the financial incentive here. And I remember like that Tatreez retreat, I had no problem stepping away from my phone because I saw value in being together in community and fostering that community. And then I remember, so like that was like during the retreat, I was finding value in what we were doing. And so that kept me off my phone a little bit less. Like obviously we were checking our phones, but it was not nearly to the extent that I was checking my phone before the retreat. And then I remember because my flight was really early and I was the first one to leave. And so I went by myself and I had a whole hour drive to the airport. And then I had, my flight was delayed. And so I was stuck in the airport. And I remember like going on my phone and I was just like, oh my God, this is still going on. And like I was crying in the airport. Like I was like hit me again so hard as if I was witnessing it for the first time because I had had those couple of days away. And like that to me was such a huge indicator of how critical like that kind of space and that kind of experience is to persevere through like witnessing one of the worst, like the worst thing we could possibly witness on our phones. And like, it's just, it was such that I remember it so vividly, like that difference between the night before and that morning, being stuck alone by myself, isolated in an airport that was just kind of going about their own business. Nothing with like, no one understood that there was a genocide happening. And I was like, how does nobody know? How does no one in this airport? World. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and this is just to like remind everyone of the timeline. Like by the time we left the retreat, it was October, I think like 24, 25. Like, and this is like week maybe 3 of the genocide. And now we're not on weeks, we're like on month. What is it? 6. We're entering we're entering like the 6th month, which is half of a year, which is so really, really incredibly dystopian to think and talk about. But I am like curious because like, you know, at least from my perspective, like I don't work in corporate America, but you both did. And so like I'm curious about your experience because I just mentioned like me speaking to my friends that work in those spaces. They still felt isolated, but they hadn't gone to the retreat. So like I wonder like after the retreat, once you guys got back and went into your worlds, did it, I mean, I think there's still an element of it feeling dystopia no matter what. But how did you guys feel going back into the quote unquote real world?
So
I see
Amani go first. Amani's thinking.
You need a second to think, or is there too much that wants to come out?
No, I don't want to get fired, so I'm trying to pick my words wisely. So here's the thing. I work in the beauty industry. I work in marketing. I love my job. I love my industry. I love my career. I adore my coworkers. Like they're a good time. They're smart, very smart women and men. And for me, my job has always been a creative outlet. And that's always been fun. But I will say that very much changed in October. My company does a pretty good job for a corporation. They do a pretty good job of DEI. And I will say major shout out to the team that leads our DEI because those
Can you
people
spell like what DEI for those people who
yes,
don't know what
diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is a team, like the people at our company who handle this team, who are on this team, who lead this team, they genuinely care. Like it's the corporate world, so they're limited to what they can and can't do. But I know I have had honest conversations with them, and I've seen the work that they've done before 2020, by the way. They did not start DEI in 2020. It's been a part of the company for a while. There was an email that went out that gave me all lives matter energy. I will be honest, the email when it came out, I just hit delete because I knew it was about to be something that was going to annoy me. So I just hit delete, didn't even read it. And then one of my Palestinian coworkers reached out to me and was like, "Girl, did you read the email?" And I said, "No, of course not." And he was like, "Yeah, I reached out, yada yada." Anyways, I'm not going to get into all the details, but there were conversations being had with and still being had at my company, how best to show up and support. The Middle East is a very, very large market for us in a big region, and we have a team in the Middle East. I was just with them last week during our global
Oh,
conference. Adore them. They are Palestinian, many of them,
oh my God.
obviously. So, it started feeling weird immediately because of that note, that email that went out. Um, and then coming back from the retreat, and I hate saying this because I do still really love my job, and it is like I do genuinely like love my job and love the company I work for,
Yeah.
but it began feeling, quite frankly, very stupid that I'm sitting here and spending my day figuring out how to talk about a moisturizer or an eye cream when my literal family is trying to survive a genocide. You know?
Yeah, it's like feeling pointless. Like we're I feel
Yes.
like it's like kind of what Lena was touching on earlier, which is like why am I here?
Yes.
And I feel like I think even myself as well. Like I was working in the cultural arts at the time too. It's like you even start questioning what's the role of the arts. Like even
Yeah.
Tatreez itself, at the time, like now we are because I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure everybody that's even tuning in does. But I feel like we went through waves. Like we went through specific waves of what was necessary at the time. Like in October,
Mm-hmm.
once it first hit, I don't remember every wave, but there was like a wave of like social media is dire, like
Yes. Get the
calling
word
out, like
out.
get the word out. There was another time where it was like call your representative,
Yes. Yeah.
protest, show up on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
There was another time, and I think this was around probably Thanksgiving or early November, where it was like support Palestinian businesses and like
Yeah.
a lot of Palestinian or just pro Palestine, didn't have to be Palestinian. They saw like a shot up in terms of like the support for them, and people were not only boycotting items as well, but they were wanting to support their money. And then there was like another wave of like donations, right? Even though it was like, how does it get in and all of this stuff. And then there was like a like that last wave. I really did feel like was the how what art as resistance, and not just Tatreez, but all of the arts. Like I felt like there
Mm-hmm.
was like this huge like push for all of the arts to really be supported and showcased in that way. And I felt, at least from my end, just even the requests and the interest in learning from myself
Yes.
and
Big
other
time.
practitioners as well, you guys as well. But like we all felt it, and it's just such a dystopian reality as well to be on the flip side of it, of like, um, you know, almost like watching your people, watching a genocide and then being not allowed to grieve. Like I think in either case, like there's so much demand on us where it just creates like this idea of like what are we doing and why? And it just I think it like that's where like community comes into play, because I feel like all these questions, like whether it's my experience or like more so like your experience, Amani or Lena, like we all have these different experiences in our work. But if we don't have a space to like ask those questions and like talk about it out loud, we really start to, I feel like that's when it really starts to affect your mental health, and you really do start to get and go down a road of like, this is pointless. What am I doing? And you really just kind of quit whatever you're doing instead of persevere through it, because you really do feel like you're alone. And so I feel like that's why the community part is like so important for us to like, it was like the glue for us almost.
Mm. Yeah. I'm also a little I'm lucky in the sense that at work, I know like Lena, I know like you work at a much bigger company, so it's a little harder to connect with specific individuals, but I'm lucky in the sense that while it's a small group, there's a few of us, there's a few Palestinians at my company. One, like, and one of them, God bless him, I adore him because he, while I was like drowning in depression, he was sending
Mm.
emails to the CEO and being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
D, I needs to pay
He had your
attention to
back.
this." Yeah. And,
Hmm.
and when I came back from the retreat and was in a little bit of a better place, I connected with him and I was like, "All right, I know you're in talks with DEI. How can I support you? How can I support your efforts? And I'm actually going to be teaching a Tatreez workshop at my company, like, which is amazing because I sat down with them and I straight up told them, I said, listen,
I love
Tatreez
that.
is political. I make it very clear in my workshops that Tatreez is political. I have a few slides on Tatreez being political and Tatreez's role in the resistance.
Yeah.
I also have slides now about the current situation. And I also told them I don't use the I word. I use settle colonial state. I use 48. I do not use the I word. And if anyone
Yeah.
has a problem with that, then I'm not changing it. And they were fine with it. They were like, understood. Yep. Get it.
Got
Yeah,
you.
do your thing.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's nice. And Lena, like, I know your situation is a little different. You work at a really big, like old school company.
Yeah.
So your situation was probably it was a different situation.
There's something under that.
Lots to unpack.
Well, I mean, I guess like in brief, basically when this all happened, there was a statement as well by the CEO. It was internal. There was a statement internally, and it was very one-sided, and it was it woke up a lot of us very, very quickly, and we connected ASAP. And I mean, long story short, there's been a lot that's been happening behind the scenes till now. It's a fight upwards, and like you're going against a wall the entire time. And 5 months in, it's still like you're talking to a wall. It's crazy, blows my mind. But the thing that I noticed very early on, and I can't remember if how I felt before and after the retreat in particular, but something that I've learned over the last few months is that you really cannot trust anybody until they are proven trustworthy when it comes to Palestine.
Oh yeah.
100%. I think we all learned that, especially with the whole
but that's a hard
situation.
lesson. That's a really hard lesson. Like, unless you are Palestinian and you open up about it with each other, I officially trust nobody, because you really never know what their views are and how they will perceive you. And I'm pretty confident that people who I had trusted very, very much, and who I looked up to and admired and found to be mentors to me, I no longer can rely on them to stand up for me, to speak out when this is happening, especially if I'm putting myself on the line in a corporate situation. They will not step in. They'll do what they can, quietly, and they have your best interests at heart, and they want what's best for you. But when it comes to actually like dismantling systems, or really changing the narrative and having the courage to speak up about Palestine as a corporation, regardless of who your investors are, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And the farther up you go, the less likely you're going to be able to do that. And so I don't know, it was a big lesson for me, because I think, and I don't necessarily think it's absolutely impossible. I have I was on a call, I remember, with Palestinians, or at least Palestinian allies at several tech companies, and we were talking about a way to challenge senior leadership at all these different tech companies, because there is so much potential that these companies can do on behalf of just liberating people. And I remember being on that call, and it was so crazy because this person was talking about how, like, no matter what, you cannot quit at your job. You have to raise up. You have to go up and make it through, like, work your way up the ladder, because we need you to be in those senior leadership positions. And I'm like, hell no. Like, absolutely not. I'm not. That's so much energy. And it's so, like, you want me to engage with Zionists for the rest of my career just because there might be this one potential, like, small chance that anyone would even let me make it up there? Are you like, no, there's no way. Like, I used to be that person who would say, don't quit. Like, we have to work our way up. I used to say that. And I'm now at that point where we're like, no, you get hired by a corporation. You agree on your salary. That's the exchange that happens. You cannot trust anybody that you work with, except for the day-to-day activities that are about the job. And anytime something about Palestine comes up, they will not support you. They just won't. It goes against the bottom line. You can't prove it.
I think that's just really honestly just it's like a showcase example of how like entrenched the propaganda is.
It's
And I
crazy.
think, yeah, it's just so entrenched. And I think a lot of us are realizing that at this point in time, like the whole trust element that you're talking about, Nina. I think a lot of us are just realizing that our efforts are like better served elsewhere. And I think
Exactly.
that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
so important for so many of us to start our own initiatives and to support
Yeah.
each other in that.
Exactly.
I always think about the way that, like there's so many organizations, and I think now, having been a part of the Tatreez community for a few years and seeing it grow like exponentially, tremendously quickly in the US for the past couple of years, it's so nice to see so many new initiatives coming up. And I think like the way I personally think about it, it's like every initiative that gets started, it's literally just one book on a bookshelf. And we're over
Mm-hmm.
here trying to build
Mm-hmm.
out an entire
Yep.
library. And
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes.
every single individual effort that goes into that library is eventually going to help the collective. And I feel like there's so many of us that like we might start out feeling pointless because we're like, this is so minuscule in comparison to everything. But I don't think that we realize that it all kind of creates this huge ripple effect. And eventually we all start collaborating and working together and building
Exactly.
each other up. And
And
who
building the
knows, maybe
community.
literally one day, first of all, we're an example of that, our collaboration Tatreez
Yes.
Retreat. And then second of all, just like one day we'll have our own corporations and our own voices and our own stuff. And there
Yeah.
already are as
Yeah.
well that exist. And I think we just need to focus our energy there and really
Yeah.
support each other and
Mm-hmm.
uplift each other in that. And I think having a network of Tatreezers, like the
Mm-hmm.
Tatreez Retreat where you can meet people,
Yeah.
that's like the one that I'm so proud that we can offer that to our community, a space where we can gather.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, so two things, because before I forget them, because you spurred some thoughts for me. One is like the most recent thing you said, that like there are initiatives that are happening, like not Tatreez related, but for example, like if you
Yeah.
work for a company, that doesn't mean that that has to be the only company that is successful. And that's one of the things that I'm also learning. Like, okay, yes, that
Oh
company has been
yeah.
around, they have like established whatever roots, but we can, if we want to, change that as a collective. And that's something that I'm still kind of coming to terms with, because I feel the way that I was raised was, you have these, for example, like these Ivy League universities, like those are the place that you have to get educated. Absolutely not. You can
Yeah.
succeed in life without an Ivy League diploma. And that kind of
Yeah.
mentality needs, like, I think we're slowly shifting it, and it goes back to being in an individualized society. I don't know if that's the right word, individualistic, whatever
Yeah.
society
Yeah.
based on capitalism, where you're just competing. It's always like there's only one person who can win this game. And that type of mentality is so backwards. And if we just return back, it's
It's
just so crazy.
scarcity.
It's scarcity. If you go back to the indigenous teachings of
Mm-hmm.
communal and like sharing and being a
Yeah.
collective, like that's when you're successful, and like that's when things happen. And then the other thing, kind of related actually, is this idea that we are so much stronger and more powerful as a
Yeah.
collective. And in a corporate environment, unfortunately, the culture in these types of places, you have to compete with somebody. There's not enough spaces for everyone to be,
Yeah.
director, president, or whatever. There's only one. There's only like a select few that can make those roles because there's limited budget and whatever. But in the Tatreez space, what's really beautiful about what we're seeing is like we are able to support each other and not feel like we are
Yeah.
missing out on something. We're actually
There's no
creating
competition.
we're
Yes.
creating more
Yeah.
opportunities. The reason that we can do that thing is because we had supported that one person beforehand that paved the
Yeah.
way to make that even possible. And I think
Exactly.
that's also something that has shifted for me. Palestine is liberating me on all fronts, okay? Like
Yes, I
Yes,
love
we
that
love to
connection.
hear
I
that.
love it. I love it.
oh man. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
but
done.
honestly,
No.
that's a beautiful way to phrase it. Because when everything happened on October 7th, it was like Palestine doesn't need to be liberated. It already is. It's liberating all of
Yes.
us. And I think
Exactly.
there's so many ways to view it from like even like like an Islamic perspective, from like a personal perspective. There's so many ways of like a societal perspective, which is what you're talking about with how Palestine can liberate us. And I do think that whole idea of like the scarcity mentality versus like the communal or the abundance mentality is like such an
Exactly.
important conversation to have, because honestly, like even just being around you guys, like I don't think I told you guys this today, but I so missed it. We haven't talked in a minute. I so missed
I
you guys. And it's just like, I just love when we get together, like everybody has their own tatreez that they're working on. But when we get together, it's just this beautiful time where we are genuinely very supportive of each other and always asking about each other. And then it spills into our personal lives where we are actually dealing with like hard life things, like, you know, the advocacy stuff that we were talking about, and facing all of the backlash and the emails and whatnot. And you're able to like have Tatreez be like your home. And that's the space you can always retreat to, and know that like your sisters and your friends will be there for you. And it's just so nice. It's such a beautiful space. And like, I just love that the Tatreez retreat is that for us. And yeah, I'm just genuinely so proud that we can provide
Yeah,
that.
I agree with that. And I think one of the things that you were talking about too is like feeling supported and stuff. And I remember one of the girls at the end of the retreat making a comment, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but making a comment about how much fun she had, how much she loved being there with everyone, and how she felt so supported and not once felt any
Yeah.
competition or any negativity from these other like most of us were strangers, you know, like
Yeah.
a lot of us were strangers
Which, by
to
the
her
way,
too,
yeah,
which is
all
like
of us had met. That was the first time I met you, Amani.
that was the first time you met Bayan met IRL, and even some like some of
Yeah.
the other girls, like it was, you know, some of them I had never even spoken to or anything,
Yeah.
and it was really nice to feel that happen so naturally. And I think that actually leads me to like something I want to ask both of you too, and I'll comment as well. But like, what for you guys, because we all clearly like we all had some version of an idea of this Tatreez retreat before we all came together to expand these three tiny ideas and make it one big one, right? Like, what for you was the thing that you wanted to get out of this and you wanted to bring to the community with this Tatreez retreat? So I'll ask you ladies first. I'll comment after.
Oh my gosh,
Ooh.
okay. We should have
I know.
prepped this question.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
guys. Okay, then I'll answer first.
Thank you.
So, okay, for me, and I think I've mentioned this to both of you before. When I came into this world of Tatreez, I did not realize how big community was in Tatreez. And that was kind of this pleasant surprise to me. And like, honestly, like it's become truly like probably one of my favorite parts of Tatreez is the community. And I have kind of told myself, I was actually just talking about this earlier today with my therapist. But I was, cause you know, Lena, you and I have talked about this a little bit, but like I now, especially after our retreat, especially after October 7th, I now more than ever want Tatreez to be a larger chapter of my life, like a larger, more in-depth chapter of my life than I originally ever expected it to be. And I have made this kind of promise to myself that I want to, when I leave this world, like I want to be able to have contributed something positive through Tatreez, because right now that just feels so natural to me and feels like what I can do and want to do. And so I'm very personally dedicated to uplifting other Tatreezers, supporting other Tatreezers in any way I can. Like to me, I'm like, if I can be a small part of like making your Tatreez journey or your Tatreez experience a positive one, then like that's what I want to do. And also really connecting. Personally, I want to connect with other people. And I think what has come of that is wanting to connect other people together. So that's kind of for me, really like what I want from this retreat, and just honestly overall for all the projects that we are all doing individually and together. So that's my answer.
I freaking love that. I don't think me and Lena can top that answer.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should just keep it at that.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. No,
All right,
I mean,
we're all on the same page.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you touched on a lot of points. I think like for me, one of the main things that I was leading into it was just like, I knew it was going to be a smaller group. So it was like, I just personally also wanted to meet a lot of girls in real life and network. And I think like upon the Tatreez community growing, and then as well at the same time, like I think Badan was also growing in what's the word? In parallel to everything that was going on. So it's become such a big part of my life. And I think like the networking element is so important. And I think if we can connect all of the threesers, and I think we were talking about this earlier, where it's like there's so many of us that come from so many different walks of life. And maybe the one thing that connects a lot of us is Tatreez. It's not even that a lot of us, but there's some Tatreezers that are not even Palestinian, right? So not even Palestinian is on the table. Sometimes the one thing that connects us all is Tatreez, and to have that element and in the fact that it just like helps us network and then helps us break this idea of what we think our lives should be in terms of individual versus community, where it's like, no, like let's go back to the roots of community and connect regardless of wherever we are across the country or even across the world. If you're international and want to come, by all means,
come through.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think those are some of my reflections.
Yeah, that's I feel that too. Like I hear that, I feel that. I think that what's really nice about it too is like you were saying how like some of us like maybe Tatreez is the only thing we have in common. And I've said this before, but like, you know, art in itself is this universal language that connects people across borders, across language barriers. And Tatreez is very much that as well, for us in the diaspora as well as our allies. And I feel like for me, if I know that you practice Tatreez, and maybe it's an assumption, but it should be the standard, I feel like, you know, for me, like if you practice Tatreez, that lets me know, oh, okay, you care about Palestinian liberation. You care about Palestinian culture. You care about uplifting Palestinian art and keeping Palestinian traditions alive.
And you also appreciate the hand.
You also appreciate
the handmade.
Because you know how much time and work goes into it.
Yeah. So you are a safe space for me immediately. And I think, you know, with the retreat, like there were so many of us who like came from so many different walks of life, like you were saying, Bayan, but like we just clicked. We had some girls, remember when we went to dinner one night, we had some girls who were not a part of the retreat, but they lived locally. And they were like so cute. They were college students, they were like med students, they were like so sweet and like young. And I think they were like, I think they might have been newer in their Tatreez journeys, don't quote me, but like again, like I'm old enough to be probably like, you know, maybe their mom. But no, that's giving too much. But like, you know, we come from such different walks of life, but like we all just like sat at dinner and like instantly connected about Tatreez and like, you know, what that means to us, especially at that time. And
it broke the barriers. That's I'm so glad you brought that up, Bayan, because it's so true. Like the group makeup of the Tatreez retreat that we went on was very, very diverse. Like in many ways that you don't even like in terms when you think of diversity, it's more than just like I don't know. It's like careers were different, age were different,
even
family,
religion, marital status, Palestinian, non-Palestinian,
exactly. So diverse,
married, so many girls.
And the fact that we came together for this specific art form broke down any barriers that would have like been there, and it made the conversation really easy. Yeah.
I'm just like
so
reading
excited.
Like Tatreez is gonna liberate us all, you guys. Like this is the thread. This is the thread.
Inshallah.
I love it.
Okay, you guys are getting me excited. I'm getting very, very excited with this conversation. I think we just need to let the listeners know that because we had so much fun, because we loved the Tatreez retreat so much, that we have decided that...
Keep going. Wait.
What more? Oh, okay. Because we all connected and bonded so much.
Okay,
because we are now going to Dubai for a wedding of one of the girls. So we have decided that we are going to continue this beautiful tradition of the Tatreez retreat and open it up to more people. So this year, September 2023,
2024,
we are doing...
2024.
Oh my God, 2024. Y'all, what is wrong with me? Rewind. Okay, this year, September 2024, we are hosting the Tatreez Retreat 2024 at Yosemite. We are going to be doing 5 nights in Yosemite. So one of the things that after this, we talked to everyone, we're like, hey, what do you guys like? What did you like? Like, let's figure out, like, if we want to invite more people and bring more people, like, we want to, like, learn and expand and make sure that we're giving people the best experience. And everyone was like, we need more time together. We need more time. So we're doing a 5-night retreat. We are staying at a beautiful property in Yosemite. We are going to get together. We are going to have so many stitching sessions. We're going to stitch a lot together.
Yes.
And I will tell you that those stitching sessions are so fun. We all learn from each other. We like inspire each other. Sometimes we help you fix your thobe, as you heard on Yeza's.
I was about to bring that up.
As you heard on Yeza's episode, sometimes we have to help you fix your thobe. And you know what? We come together as a community and do it.
Yeah.
And then outside of that too, one of the other things we talked about was like being in nature and really being able to unplug and just like focus in on this like retreat. So we're doing that in Yosemite. We're going to be doing like a guided tour of Yosemite. And I'm talking to the tour people, and I made sure, I'm like, listen, we want to really dive into the indigenous history of Yosemite, because it does have such a beautiful indigenous history. We're going to do some different art classes. My personal favorite, we are going to do a nighttime stargazing tour. Okay, now I'm just like reading off the itinerary, but like I'm very excited about this.
So many fun activities.
So much fun stuff, and so much time for us all to like really connect and be together, stitch together, and really get out of this what we really want. So we are now opening this up to all of you, to the whole world, literally, like if wherever you are. I mean, who doesn't want to come to Yosemite, y'all? Yosemite is stunning. So we want to invite all our Tatreezers to come and join us on this like retreat and be together, learn from each other, support each other, inspire each other, make new friends and all of that. So we're really excited. And right now we're officially dropping the website. We're launching the website. It's thetatreezretreat.com, which obviously we'll have in the show notes. But we want you to come, and we also, like, if you're coming, get in touch with us and let us know like what you want out of this retreat too. I think that it's important that this is our experience. Like, yes, me, Lena, and Bayan are like planning things, but like this is a community thing. Like, you can just come and chill and hang, or you can get involved and help, like whatever you want. At the end of the day, we're doing this for all of us. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to add anything. I'm just like going on a tangent because I'm so excited. You guys have no idea how excited I am.
I think people know. I think people have an idea of how excited.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say.
I'm hyped. Doing my little dance right now.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready to go back to Yosemite and stitch with you guys. I can't wait. I think, Amanda, you pretty much covered everything. The thetatreezretreat.com. You guys definitely visit it. Check out the itinerary. Check out the dates. Book your flights now before, flights get, pretty pricey, and get over there. It's going to be so much fun to stitch together. I personally can't wait to see both of you in person. Amanda, I don't think I've seen you. Lena, I haven't seen you both since the last retreat. So I can't wait to get back together with everyone and just stitch and explore everything. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And obviously get in touch with us. Like, once you guys get on the website, you'll see like we try to put together as much info, FAQs and all that. And then once people start booking, we'll have a WhatsApp group so y'all can coordinate together on any transportation if you guys want to request roomies and all that. But it's going to be a good time, and I'm excited that we're able to expand it and bring in more Tatreezers, just to make new friends. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Make new friends. And also, I think, Amani, when you were mentioning get in touch with us, we also have an email, which is also on the website that you can find, which is the thetatreezretreat at gmail.com. So feel free to reach that, or you can DM either Lena, Amani, or me. And I think it's, the email should be on the website, right? So it should be there for you guys to reach out to.
Yeah, we put everything out there, but we're thrilled and can't wait to get together with you all and stitch in the wilderness at the beauty of Yosemite. Like, honestly, like, what a background. Also, should I say this because I haven't planned it, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I really want. Lena's like gonna kill me. We're gonna take some beautiful pictures at Yosemite. I'll just say that.
Amani's getting the photographer. Amani's getting the photographer.
So vague.
She's officially the responsible person for a photographer.
I felt like Lena was gonna yell at me. She was very disappointed that I was gonna drop this news, so I was trying to be vague, Bayan.
Anyways,
Lena dropped it anyway.
I can't keep a secret, clearly.
Clearly. Anyways, before you guys do jump onto that website, though, make sure to give this talk, Tatreez Talk, a 5-star review and share with all of your friends. And then you can go to thetatreezretreat.com and book your spot. And I think we should wrap it up. It's been an hour.
See, that's the problem. When the three of us get together, we don't shut up. But it's always a good time.
Yeah.
But we will see you guys all. We'll see you Tatreezers at the Tatreez Retreat in September. Thetatreezretreat.com. Can't wait to see you all.